be a point in your time in your life where it's the right time to do a great thing. If you wait for that perfect moment, that perfect timing, it's not going to happen. You know what you have to do? You have to create the perfect time and the perfect opportunity and the perfect situation.
Let's create that perfect time to learn about the training methods. So in this video, we'll be looking at key knowledge of fitness training methods, including continuous, interval, fartlek, circuit, weight or resistance training, flexibility, plyometrics, speed, Swiss ball, and core strength training. In the next video, we'll have a look at the rest of this key knowledge. During these videos, we've been working our way through these 6 steps to developing a successful training program. Initially, we spoke about the activity analysis, and then we moved on and we discussed the fitness testing. Today, we are looking at the 3rd step, and that is the training methods. Training methods are simply ways in which a coach or fitness advisor trains the athlete. These training methods can include continuous, interval, fartlek, circuit, resistance, flexibility, plyometric, speed, agility, and core strength training. Let's look at each one of these in detail, starting with the continuous training. Continuous training involves working at submaximal intensity for a prolonged period of time. Continuous training helps to develop the aerobic capacity and the muscular endurance. To develop the aerobic capacity, the athlete has to train a minimum of 3 times per week, and there is no maximum. The minimum length of time for an effective continuous training session is 20 minutes. However, the specific demands of the sport should be taken into account when planning sessions. If the sport is a 5-kilometer swim or a 180-kilometer ride, or 20 minutes may not be sufficient training time. Continuous training should be completed at an intensity within the aerobic training zone. That's somewhere between 70 to 85% of your maximum heart rate. This is called long slow distance, or LSD training, and improves aerobic capacity at a steady state, and is often used early in an aerobic training program or for health related benefits. Anaerobic threshold training involves working just above the lactate inflection point, usually above 85% of your maximum heart rate. This training is used to stimulate race conditions because at this intensity, fatigue factors such as increasing in metabolic byproducts for an athlete to improve their lip, meaning in time they will be able to work harder for longer. The overload is usually applied to continuous training by increasing the distance, increasing the time, increasing the intensity, changing the incline, for example running up a steeper hill, or reducing time to run a particular distance. Okay, next let's have a look at interval training. Interval training involves periods of hard work followed by periods of rest, repeated several times in one training session. The recovery can be active or passive. There are 3 types of interval training: short, intermediate, and long. Short interval training develops the ATP-PC system. The intervals are shorter, so 3 to 15 seconds or 10 to 50 meters, and the intensity is maximal, while the rest is long to replenish the PC stores and should be passive. A work-rest ratio of 1 to 5 or higher. Sporting examples include certain team sports and sprinters. The intermediate interval training develops the anaerobic glycolysis system. The interval distances are still relatively short at approximately 15 to 45 seconds or 50 to 150 meters. However, the length of the interval and the intensity of the interval result in a build-up of metabolic byproducts, causing the body to fatigue. A work-rest ratio of approximately 1 to 3 to 1 to 5 should be applied, and an active recovery should be completed. Sporting examples include again some team sports and 200 to 400 meter runners. Long interval training develops the aerobic system. The interval should be longer, so a minute to 6 minutes, or 150 to 1500 meters, while the intensity should be at or slightly above 85% of your max heart rate to improve a lactate inflection point and increase the anaerobic threshold. A work-rest ratio of 1 to 1 or below should be applied, with a rest being an active recovery. Sporting examples again include some team sports, but also more middle distance runners. Your overload is usually applied to interval training by increasing the repetitions, increasing the sets, increasing the distance of the work, or decreasing the recovery time, so ensuring it is still within the specific work to rest ratio desired, or increasing the intensity of the workout. Next we look at fartlek training. So fartlek, which means speed play in Swedish, is a training method that blends continuous training with interval training, and is simply periods of faster activity intermixed with slower activity. And so the athlete can play with the intensities, adding some easy, medium, and hard efforts. Fartlek training helps to develop the aerobic and anaerobic capacities. Overload is usually applied to fartlek training by the distance of each burst, the frequency of each burst, or the intensity of each burst. Circuit training. Circuit training is a form of body conditioning or resistance training using high-intensity exercises. An exercise circuit is one completion of all the prescribed exercises within the program. However, the exercises should be arranged so that muscle groups have a chance to recover, unless you are wanting to develop muscular endurance. There are three types of circuits. There's a fixed load. This is where the number of repetitions for each station is specified. For example, 20 sit-ups, 15 push-ups, 12 tuck jumps, and so on. An individual load, that's the number of repetitions for or the time at each station, is specified. However, the load is changed to suit the individual. A fixed time, which is the most popular circuit, where each person begins at a different station and completes as many repetitions as possible in the allotted time. Overload is usually applied to circuit training by increasing the time at each station, increasing the load, increasing the repetitions or the sets, increasing the number of stations, or decreasing the rest between each station. Next is resistance training, which is also called weight training. Is the use of resistance to muscular contraction to build strength in and enhance skeletal muscles. Resistance training develops the muscular strength, muscular power, and muscular endurance. Resistance training has 4 aims. Hypertrophy, which is increasing in the muscle bulk and size. This is really good for footballers, rugby players who require a significant bulk to withstand aggressive body contact. Next is the maximal strength, which is the highest level of force an athlete can possibly generate. The greater the maximal strength, the more it can be converted into sport-specific strength, endurance, or explosive power. Explosive power. Most sports require movements that are performed quickly. Therefore, one's maximum strength needs to be converted into sport-specific power. Strength endurance. Sports like distance running, cycling, and swimming, strength endurance is often important. A higher level of starting maximal strength will lead to better strength endurance. There are 3 types of resistance training. The first is the isotonic, which occurs when the load remains constant throughout the range of movement. There are 2 types of isotonic contractions. The first is the concentric, where the muscle shortens during a contraction, and the eccentric is the second one, where the muscle lengthens during a contraction. The second type of muscle contraction is the isometric, which involves contracting the muscle against an immovable resistance. And the third is isokinetic, where specialist machines change the resistance to cater for the weak points, allowing more weight to be lifted throughout the movement. Overload is usually applied to resistance training by increasing the sets, reps, load, and decreasing the recovery time. I'll leave it there just to break this video up as it is starting to drag on. However, before we go, I will of course kindly flick over to a little bit more motivation to keep you sparked.
That the biggest enemy you have to deal with is yourself. There's an old African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. You have this opportunity of a lifetime. It means absolutely nothing if you don't take advantage of it in the lifetime of this opportunity. I got a saying that when life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. If you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight, to work day and night for, to give up your time, your peace, and your sleep. If all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and worthless without it. See, it's time now. If you want to make this your decade, you've got to start saying yes to your life. You've got to start saying yes to your dreams, yes to your unfolding future, yes to your potential, as opposed to saying no. When you die on E. Leave no dream left behind, God. Leave no opportunity left behind. When you leave this earth, accomplish every single thing you can accomplish.
Listen to me, you're going to be here one day, but you'll never get here if you give up, if you give in, if you quit. And finally, guys, you got to want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe.